Hello, I'm back. So, another thing I was thinking of is when you talk to people that they could be your friends or maybe they don't know you that well, whatever, but anyone you talk to about your abuse, not that I go around like, oh, hey, I was abused and this and that, but if you talk about a situation with your narcissistic mother, narcissistic parent, and how it affected you or how you're hurt or why you're angry, it's common for people to just right away just defend the narcissist, and I think it's because of the whole thing our society has with parents and family. They'll defend a narcissistic parent right away, and these people fall into two camps. Some of them do it because they really have no idea. Like they grew up in a relatively normal house, and they're arguing from their perspective, like, oh yeah, well I butt heads with my mom all the time, or yeah, me and my dad had a fight, or whatever. But usually it's like a passing thing, and in a week everybody's over it. They really don't comprehend how deep this goes when you're raised by a narcissist, and it's like the insidious abuse over years or decades. And a lot of people just don't comprehend that. You can't really blame them for it. So some people that defend the narcissist, it is sort of out of ignorance, so you can't really fault them, but these aren't even the most aggressive defenders, though. Usually the people that grow up in, well, I guess there's no real normal family, but relatively normal families, they don't really, they don't really know, so they think they're helping you out and whatever. But I find the people that defend them the most aggressively, it's not because they have no idea. A lot of the worst people, the worst offenders of this, are actually fellow abuse victims. And the problem is that they defend your narc abuser so so adamantly is because they refuse to come to terms with their own abuse. And I've seen this multiple times, and it's like, you're wrong, but not because they really want you to be wrong. It's more like they don't want to acknowledge what happened to you as abuse, because then they'd have to acknowledge their upbringing as abusive, and they just can't face that. And it's for different reasons. Some of it is out of ego. They maybe they've taken on some narcissist traits themselves, and they don't want to admit to an imperfect family. Or sometimes people they're still dependent on their parents for one reason or another, so they kind of can't admit to it. And I think that's kind of, I was at that point like 5 or so years ago, or 7 years ago, when I didn't have a lot of money and I was stuck living with my mother. And I think that's why I blocked so much out. And I even remember people would mock my mother, like, not being serious, because I don't think anyone knew how bad it was, but even mocking, like, joking towards it, and I'd be like, oh no, she's not that bad. Like, that's how deluded I was. And then it wasn't until I moved out I started having, like, all these like nightmares and flashbacks, and I'd be in the supermarket and I'd like hear her scream, almost like delusions. Like, I'd hear her screaming behind me. True story. I was in a supermarket, and I was like in this, you get traffic jams in the supermarket. Someone wanted to pass, and I don't remember what happened, but then I heard my mother over my shoulder, like, you're supposed to let them pass first. Oh my god, you don't know how to, like, criticizing my step-by-step move down the aisle, which is stuff she's done in the past, like, if I ever went anywhere with her. So that was happening to me for a while. I'd mess up some trivial thing, or even if it wasn't a mess up, it's just with her, I was always wrong no matter what. I'd actually hear her criticizing me over my shoulder. And that doesn't happen anymore, but that was happening for a while. Like, the trauma that was stored in my brain and my body was I honestly hope it hasn't taken years off my life, because it was really severe. So I do understand why some people that are stuck in their situation, how they can't acknowledge it. So those people I kind of give a bit of a pass to, because I understand, but I guess the most obnoxious ones are the ones that are ego-based, like, they come from fucked up families too, but don't want to admit it, so they'll defend my mother to the death, and I'm always in the wrong, and... Or, another thing I can't stand is, when they try to tell you when outsiders try to tell you what you really think and how you feel. They're like, oh, but your mother loves you. I'm like, no, people have told me it can't be any more obvious that your mother hates you. She's like, oh, I'm sure she loves you. Like, this sentimental bullshit, which I've said in past videos, like, that's not really me. I mean, a lot of women are just, like, blindly sentimental, and I'm just not, but... Or they'll say, oh, come on, but you love her, though. Oh, but you love her. Say it. Say you love him. Like, whoa. Boundary violation. You know, like, when people say, this is how you feel, and now say it, or you don't really think that, you think that. I think that is a major, just boundary crossing, and if you don't agree with my assessment of my situation, that's fine, but don't tell me how I feel, how I should express it, when I should express it. I just, I mean, whatever, you don't want to acknowledge your own abuse, that's fine, but, so, I'm sure you guys have noticed that too, how, well, most people blindly defend family and parents anyway in our society, but I'm sure you've noticed too that there's different categories of people. There's the people that it really is because they have no idea, but then I feel like the worst defenders of the abuse are actually abuse victims themselves that don't want to admit it. So that's, I guess, all my videos I'm gonna make for tonight, and I guess I'll see you soon.